don't know what happened to Facebook. I don't know if they changed things or I hit a button and changed things, but just to get my information in there was rough. It's not even a clickable link anymore. You have to, my community, you have to highlight it and click it. So tech changes and it's like you got to adapt to it. Today is a small medicine, angophora lanceolata. And real quick, red gum, but it's Eucalyptus calmadolensis. So, anyways, that's a small medicine, and all it's good for is constipation, inclination to stools, bearing down sensation in the stomach. So, a lot of constipation, diarrhea, things like that. And I don't know if it didn't get, it obviously didn't get proven as much because you should have all these. It should be symptoms, but this is all under case taking I'm going to do today. But you should have all these symptoms, at least some symptoms. So some of these medicines, I believe, didn't get a very good proving done to them. They didn't give it to a bunch of people and whatever, and some of them are just, they know because the folklore, the people indigenously of that plant, sorry, indigenously of that plant was using it herbally, and they know how it helps herbally. So this one obviously wasn't proven as well. So that's all there is to that angophora lanceolata. But today, before I get into the case taking, I don't know if anybody else has this situation, but the weather has been so wet. There's a lady went 5 miles in a creek and survived. Her son, I guess, or somebody, he didn't survive, and he looked like a big, strong guy. I had two friends here too years ago when a flood happened. I was in that flood. I lost a car in it, but those two guys died. And everybody was just like, man, they were big, strong guys. And it's a little creek. It's not a big creek, but once that water rises and it takes you, if you hit your head and stuff, you don't make it. So all that wet weather, even I noticed my door sticks, the wood swelled up on it. So my door's sticking. I don't know if that has to do, is that why, some people are, have a susceptibility to that wet weather, and they just ache. My wife and I both have that. She woke up and I was like, holy crap. Now you get up and start moving, you feel a little better. That's a Russ Talk symptom. But I looked it up. I've been looking this up for a while, and it keeps pointing to the same medicine, and I don't have it. So I went on Amazon this morning and ordered it just so I have it. But this is the amount of, I looked under wet weather in the back of the repertoire. So they got like a dictionary type of thing. You look at it, oh, wet weather, go to this page. So this page brought me to environment. Environment brought me down to wet weather. Let's see if I can get that in there good. Wet weather aggravates. There it is. And you can see all the medicines that I have. If I can get it up in there. And the one here is rhododendron. That's the one that matched. Now, all I had to do was I went through and I looked at the beginning of a lot of these medicines. And that's really, I had 20 medicines there, and I just looked at the first part, the medical. And this one under rhododendron, there it is, says sensitive to windy and stormy wet weather. And I've been seeing that for a while, but I just didn't have the medicine, so I was trying some other ones. Worse before a storm, too, it says. Oops, sorry. Worse before a storm. So I ordered that today on Amazon. So that's how quickly you can get a medicine that normally can work if you don't have it with you. You go in, you look in the back under whatever's bugging you, whatever's, that's an etiology or whatever. So that's where I'm getting into case taking this morning. It can be as simple as, gee, every time the wet weather comes, my body aches and my joints ache, and I got to get up and move around. Now, I've been trying Russ Talks with that, and it may ameliorate it a little bit, but I think rhododendron's going to do it. Now, Matt Sulf also had wet weather, but it was cold, wet weather, damp weather, whatever it said. So this is warm, wet weather, and there's really no other rubric. So if I went under wet weather and then I said, another smaller rubric would be wet weather aggravates, and then under that you would say better by movement, that'd be Russ Talks, or you could narrow it down with rubrics that are a little, get you a little. It eliminates some of the medicines. So that's what you do. You go under environment, wet weather, aggravates, and then there wasn't any, but if there was other ones, it says better by movement, once warmth, once cold. Those are like modalities. That better by, worse by. That's what a modality is. Um, and that's how you take a case. You ask them what makes it feel better, what makes it feel worse, what kind of pain is it. It's just a what kind of pain would I say that is? It's just a achy feeling, you know. But anyways, case taking. Here's an example of a case. Age 15, he has depression. Then he began getting headaches. Age 24, hurt back in car accident. So he says, give arnica for the headaches, right? Uh, give arnica. That's for the hurt back. So this is the case, first depression, then headaches, then car accident. And this is a very simple case. There'd be a lot more things you'd take a case of, but you would give arnica for the back injury. Okay. Now it could be bryonia if they say worse by motion. It could be Russ Talks if it says better by motion. But arnica is usually a best bet when someone has a car accident, whether it's a head injury, a back injury, whatever. So he gives arnica, and then the headaches reappear. So why do the headaches reappear? Because you're going according to the law of uh, cure. Is that right? Herring's law. It always goes back through your history. It goes from top to bottom. It goes from inside to outside. So the skin would be the last place. Like if you had asthma, and you took care of it. You had a skin problem as a child, like I did with poison ivy. But anyways, you had a skin problem, and you took care of it with drugs or with creams or whatever. Hydrocortisone, I think it is. You push that disease in. Now this person has asthma. Where does asthma come from? I don't know. Well, homeopath's thoughts are it pushes the disease back in and it attacks organs, whether it's the lungs, the kidneys, wherever. It goes inside. Now, and then whenever you go in and you heal the asthma using a homeopathic remedy, then the skin symptoms will come back. And then you go for the skin symptoms, and then you clear that up. So he's going back in, and now the headache reappears. So you give iris, say, this is just examples. He doesn't have a full case here. He's just giving you an example. And an iris can be a good headache remedy. So you give it iris for the headaches. Then the headache improves, and the depression comes back. So now we're back to here. So what would you give? Maybe, it depends on the type of, was that a loss, a grief of somebody, a loss of somebody? What brought on that depression? That's the etiology or the cause that you'd be looking for. And then you would give Ignatia or whatever to clear up the depression. Now you're down to a miasm or a constitutional situation. Just like if I clear up the fact that the weather, when it's really damp and wet, really bothers my joints and my body, and just gives me an achy, crappy feeling. Once I clear that up, I may go back to, something like my poison ivy years ago that I had taken care of topically. That could come up next. Or, it could be any different matter of things that happen through your life. Each time something happens to you, say a bad birth, even, that could set you up for a miasmatic disease state, a susceptibility to certain things, and it could be genetic. It could come from the parents, and so on. You could have grandparents that had syphilis and gonorrhea years ago, took care of it allopathically, and now you have a miasm set up for that. So anyways, that's pretty deep, but this is the way it works. This gives an example of Herring's law. Herring's law, like I said, is inside out, top to bottom, from the most recent to the next to the next. And you're like an onion. You peel off each layer because you have something happen, say at birth, that sets an imprint up on your vital force. then you have now your vital force is just trying to bring homeostasis, or your immune system is trying to bring homeostasis to your body so that you can function. So it'll attack whatever, it'll set up something that, you're susceptible now to some sickness, some disease, some whatever. That's why the flu will come by and some people won't get affected and others will. Even if they get a vaccine, they still get the flu because they have that susceptibility that needs to be taken care of internally to externally. So that's Herring's law. Inside out, top to bottom, most recent to prior states. And when I say a state, if you have a depression, that sets up a state on your vital force. That depression will be there and will set up the susceptibility to other diseases. So you take the whole case, but cure the most recent state of health. So, like you said, if the last thing was a car accident, what are you doing? You're giving arnica. You're taking the car accident. You take the whole case, but okay, what's going on now? What's debilitating this person? Where do they have a leak in their vital energy? Where's their vital energy? They think uh, psychics are, whatever, where that comes from, but that's actually probably had a head injury, because I know there was a case I read that the guy was a psychic or had that kind of ability, and they gave him a medicine and it cleared up, like arnica or nat sulf, and it cleared that part of their injury up, and now it's closed and they don't have it anymore. So yeah, these things set up uh, different areas of your state of health, whether it's a depression, an injury, an accident, um, like this one, just getting headaches, whatever it is, it sets up a state of health on you, on an impression on your vital force that now sets you up to where you're going to be susceptible to other diseases, because your vitality from that thing dropped from here down to here, and then our job is to build it back up till you're at a state of health where now you're taking care of the depression. Now you're back to the point of your constitutional health. So you keep the case moving and always treat the next level. So you always keep it moving. So you're given a medicine, a 30C, we'll say, and arnica in the back starting to clear up, but it stops working. Do you change and go? You don't see the headaches yet, but it stops working. So you got to go from a 30 to a 200. Now, if that aggravates, then you go back and you give it more often. So you can adjust. And I always put it in water. Hahnemann's last experiments, he would put everything in water. He said it makes it milder and it makes it more effective. I think I had a bulb burn out. Something weird happened. Wonder if we had it didn't seem like we lost electricity. Anyways, did I lose it? Nope, still going. Seems like. All right. Hopefully this is taken. We're gonna find out. I don't even know how to share it. Man, this whole thing got screwy. Hopefully I'm going live anyways. Doesn't matter. But you always keep it moving. You treat the next level. So if you give it 200 and it aggravates, you go back, but you give it more often. So you keep working until that medicine, you go up to a next level and it's just not working. It's done. But you see a headache pop up. Now you go and you start hitting a headache until the headache goes away. And they don't seem to have that situation. Their sleep's better. Everything's better. Now, then you go, when you see that their mood, their sensation, their um, they just start feeling that depression back again. Now you're working on that. Case moving always. Boy, this has been a weird morning, man. My body waking up aching. Facebook went weird. Now I just had the lights kind of flicker and go out and do something. I don't know. Everything's conspiring against me, but I shall overcome. Keep case moving. Always treat the next level that comes up. Through a series of remedies over a period of time, reverse the lowering of levels of vitality, restore the person's health. So, depression lowered the vitality, headache lowered the vitality, hurt back lowered the vitality. Now, we are using different remedies like arnica, restore the vitality from the hurt back. what was the other, iris for the headache. Now we're restoring it. Then, like I say, we get to the depression. You might be ignatia or something to remove that depression, and you'll see the health just the we reverse the lowering of the levels of vitality to restore the person's health. So we analyze the case looking for change in sensitivity. So with change in sensitivity is they have a depression. Now they're sensitive to whatever sicknesses come in. Then they get a headache. Now they're sensitive. They're more sensitive. They have their vitality is even lower, and the hurt back even brings it lower. Now we're looking for, as we um, give the medicines, we're looking the reverse of sensitivity. The back is getting better. They no longer have that sensitivity. Now the headaches are back, and that sensitivity comes in all the way back to depression, to feeling better. Uh, then it's coupled with the increase in vitality. So the sensitivity goes down, the vitality goes up. Just like my son being allergic to a dog. Gave him that medicine. As he took it, the sensitivity went down and the swelling went away in his eyes. Then, as he kept taking it, I was building it. It built up his uh, vitality and removed his susceptibility to the dog hair until he was able to sleep with a dog, and he still does to today. So that's 30 some years ago. That situation's taken care of no longer. And that's when I said, man, I got to study this. I cannot believe a little sugar tablet in a bottle of water did that. you know, and I still don't believe today. I give my wife a medicine for hernia, and 2 days later, hey, how's that hernia? It's gone. Really? I gave you one bottle of water with some one little sugar tablet in it, and that took care of it. And that sugar tablet's even diluted out 30 times. So how does that work? How do you dilute something out to where there's no substance left, and there's the energy increases by pounding it or succussing it? How does that work? That's why I say it's got to be a quantum physics level, because that does not work on the physical realm. Physics has the physical realm where they know the big things and how they work, how gravity works and all that. But when they get to the quantum, they're like, yeah, I'm not sure how that works. Spooky action. You can have two particles millions of miles away. You change the spin on one, and the spin on the other will change to the same direction. Einstein says that's spooky action from a distance. So that's why I say this got to be quantum physics type of stuff. So we're increasing the vitality so that they're not sensitive to whatever that allergy, that injury, that thing is, that cold, that flu. And that's through a series of remedies over a period of time. When they first started homeopathy, they used to give a high dose, like a 10 m or a 50 m, and just really aggravate someone, and they would bump them way up, and then when they came down they'd be this much better. Bump them back up and they'd be this much better. That's not the way to do it. You're basically building their vitality up. And when you give a single remedy, you can tell what's working, what's not working, right? And you can go, as you build it up, you can adjust the aggravation levels or whatever's going on till you get remove that part of the injury, the car accident, and get to the next level. Analyze the case looking for change in sensitivity. So that's what we're looking for. Sensitivity is read through the symptoms, and he calls them morbid symptoms. So the symptoms are, the disease is not the sinuses running or the eyes watering or the throat being sore. That is not the disease. That is the vital force, the immunity, fighting off the inward sickness. Whatever it is, a flu, a cold, measles, whatever it is. It's fighting off that inward thing and trying to push it out through the nose, through the anus, through the vagina, through the eyes, through the sweat, through when you have a fever, it's through the sweat, through throwing up out of your mouth, so it's trying to throw things off, and when the symptoms come, then you take all them symptoms down, the back, the nose, the ears, the eyes, you take all them symptoms and you ask them, what is the worst thing you have going on? And when you do that, then now you have a picture. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for a full picture of this disease, because if you don't find the full picture, you'll be shooting at, and you can do it with acutes. You'll be shooting at one symptom that isn't really the center of the case, you know. So in other words, you're going, oh, I got these headaches, and you're like, well, when did they start, and you go through all that, taking the case. What's it feel like, all these kind of things for the headache, but yet they didn't mention the hurt back, so eventually you'll say, well, I got these headaches, I got this backache, I got this depression, and you say, what's the worst thing? What's going on now? What's debilitating the person now? What's where's the energy leak? Oh, the energy leak is out the back. Oh, okay. Well, let's give you arnica for that accident, and then you'll get back to the headache. So you're looking for you taking the whole case, you're getting the symptoms, and which is the last thing we look at to understand, uh, which is the first thing in the case. So the last thing is what we're looking at. Once we get rid of that and we peel it off, that's why, I was in that call with people from the UK, and they're better at this than me. I don't know. I just gave a suggestion, and they're taught, the motions and the mind and the thing, and they're looking at, and that's all good. They know more than I do. But once I heard, I have these hemorrhoids that are like smell like rotten meat. I thought, well, just give them pyrogen for now. Give them pyrogen. Once you clear that up, that may not be the center of the case. You'd have to ask them, what's the worst thing you want to get rid of? But it sounded like those hemorrhoids were somewhat debilitating. That was definitely a leak of energy. Give that, continue to take the case, ask more questions, find out what's the center, you clear up the hemorrhoids. Now you got a person that says, wow, that's great. Let's keep going. you know. Um, what happened to the person? That's what you're looking for. What happened? When did it happen? How did it happen? How did you react to it? That's the whole big thing too. Because someone could have a person, saying nasty things to them, and it really affects them. That's one person. Now another person could have someone saying the same thing, and it doesn't bother them. So there's two mindsets that are, what happened and how did they react to it? What happened during the grief? Did they ever get through that grief, or they stuck there? Other people have a grief and they get through it. And the level of health they are in. So new sensitivities, things like that. So, the level of health is, how do you feel, that goes with food and your, your head, your back, your mind, different things. How are they, what are they sensitive to? Then you go to symptomology. So you're getting a picture of the person. Symptoms are great. You write them all down, but you're trying to get a picture of how this person reacts to life, how this person interacts with people, how this person handles situations such as grief and loss and stress, things like that. Even interactions with people. Do they not want to be touched? Do they not want company? Do they want company? Which, all these things are very important to determine differentially in medicines. Like a pulsatilla is that one's thirsty, right? One's thirsty, one's thirstless. That can help. One's doesn't want company, the other wants company. So these medicines all have these different characteristics. So that's the level of health they're in, and the new sensitivities. Are you sensitive to the weather, cold, damp weather? What is your sensitivities? Then you take the symptomology and you match that to the picture you have. If you just take the symptoms, you'll be looking at symptoms. You'll get lost in the repertoire and the materia medica, having to look at a bunch of stuff. But when you have a whole picture and you see the person's likes, dislikes, reactions, What makes it feel better, what makes it feel worse, how do they feel about, company, all that good stuff. When you get all that, then you go to the symptomology, and now you can match a medicine, and you can choose a medicine according to what they like, dislike, what makes it feel better, what doesn't. And the symptomology is, what does it feel like? Is it throbbing, pounding, burning, aching? What is it? So here's an analogy. There's a faucet that's turned off, okay? And it keeps dripping. You're wondering, why is that faucet dripping? What's going on with that faucet dripping? So it's the same thing. Inside, we have something that's turned off or turned on, or something that's going on internally that we don't know about. But we look at the drops. The drops are the symptoms. We're looking at the drops as they come out. Oh, they're shiny. Oh, the light drops off of them, and they drop at this rate. And you're analyzing the drops, which are the symptoms. So we're analyzing all these symptoms, but we're not getting to what's going on internally. The drops come out, the light's shining through them, all this good stuff, how the drops are falling, etc. We should be wondering, what's wrong with the faucet? Why is it leaking? So what's wrong with the faucet? Not the drops, not the symptoms. The runny nose, you got a runny nose, you got this, you got that. We got to look at, why does this person have a runny nose? What's going on inside? The runny nose could be a cold, a flu, allergy. It could be a lot of different things, but we're looking at the runny nose. It's green mucus, or it's clear mucus, and that's all good. That'll come in handy to choose between medicines. But we got to go back and look, why is this happening? Where did this come from? When did this get set up? When did this sinus problem start? When did this allergy problems start? When did, oh, it was a flu. Okay, well, we know a flu remedy. Oh, it's every time summer comes, you get this nose problem. Or this is constant, and I always have a stuffy nose, which there's a person I know I got to ask, when did this start? When, was it a grief? Was it a something? Was it an injury? When did this start? When did you start notice, having this? Oh, it was back during puberty. Okay, there's a situation there. Um, and why is it leaking? Why is there a runny nose? Is it an allergy, a flu, a cold, or whatever? All right, there's two sayings in homeopathic medicine. One is, begin being an unprejudiced observer. So we're just observing, and that's the hardest thing to do. Like I said, my kid got scratched by a cat. He was trying to wash the thing. They don't like water, dude. And I didn't even think about it. Oh, Dad, I got this flu. I got this sinus and all this stuff. Oh, okay. You got a cold. Let's see what happens. Oh, it wasn't getting better. Okay, so I started giving him some medicines. It wasn't working. Okay, what's going on? I didn't take the part where he got scratched by a cat. Is this it was a flu. I'm judging by saying it was a flu. And oh, has he got scarlatina now because he started getting a rash on his chest and that. I'm like, you know, I didn't even, if I would have went back to the cat scratch fever is what it was. uh, I forget that songwriter's name, but uh, anyways, if I would have went back to that, it would have been different. So I needed to be unprejudiced, not putting and that's a hard thing, not to put your thoughts into what's going on, and perceiving the case, what has to be cured. We have to perceive what has to be cured, not come up with our interpretation of what we think has to be cured, but actually what's going on. And I always think of the guy in India. He was being a doctor. He was being an unprejudiced observer, because the guy had cancer. I'd been going right for the cancer in the ear. You can see it. You know what's going on. Cancer in the ear. Cancer in the ear. Nope. He went for the stomach situation, because the guy said, "Oh man, my stomach. If I could just clear this up, that would be great." He went after the stomach because of the tension he was having, and he was having an upset stomach, which the body's trying to fight off, and it produces cancer in the ear. So we're to perceive the case and be an unprejudiced observer. So the whole key is to sketch out a portrait of the disease. The totality must be cured, not just rheumatism from wet weather, but the totality. Where did this come from? Mine most likely came from having poison ivy and having it taken care of topically. Oh, yeah, and that's right. My wife, when she was young, she was in a hospital a lot because she had skin situations. Now, both of us were taken care of by, and I got to look at that under rhododendron, but we're taken care of by topical or allopathic medicines, which now I think is what made us sensitive to the wet weather. So we're gonna see that. That's why this stuff's so interesting, and I'm just getting into the case taking, let's see. So this is Robin's case analysis and philosophy. So important, and that's why I say I'm going through all these books and that, and just reiterating in me what I took with him 30 years ago. I've seen all this. I've taken all this. This is just getting me deeper, and at this point, what I'm doing is I'm gleaning it and teaching it back, and I can't wait to get people into my community and to just start, really getting well, not only getting deeper, but I'll have a section where you come in and you'll get the basics and you'll learn how to use it and you'll learn different medicines and that. And just coming in each day and learning a different medicine is awesome. That's when you learn the materia medica and learn the different keynotes to the medicines, that helps your prescribing and your case taking so much. But and then the next level in my community will be people coming in and going deeper on how to take cases. But my goal is to have everybody have this in their hand, a kit, couple books, and learn how to use them so that you can take care of your family's health, especially nowadays. I just heard they're taking the amount of money or the subsidies off of Obamacare. So now people there's going to lose their insurance, and then people are losing their job. They're losing insurance. People are going to be out there with nothing to do. How would you like to be armed with a medicine that can take care of a lot of your situations? All right, that is morning medicine. You can age, but you don't have to get old. I hope that thing worked. Come on, give me a share, buddy.